On an ordinary terraced street in Sheffield lives a man of 34 who does not go to work and never will again. He is not ill, he is not a lottery winner, and he is not on benefits. The neighbors who see him gardening on a Tuesday morning assume he is unemployed and coping suspiciously well. In fact, he retired last spring, 33 years ahead of schedule, as part of a movement called FIRE, Financial Independence, Retire Early, pronounced with a completely straight face, FIRE. The whole thing rests on one piece of arithmetic that fits on a beer mat. This is the story of that arithmetic, fantasy, scam, or sum, and more usefully, of what it offers people who have no intention of living on lentils. By the end, you'll know the number that decides when you can stop working, and why the government's version of that number, 67 or 68, is simply a default setting. Defaults can be changed. Start with the number you were handed. Somewhere in the fine print of your working life sits a retirement age. 66 today, 67 shortly, 68 for the young. Chosen by actuaries you will never meet, and nudged upward from time to time without so much as a card. Most people arrange 45 years of alarm clocks around it. The FIRE movement begins with one impertinent observation. Retirement is not an age, it is an amount. Nobody retires because they are 67. They retire because, by 67, enough money has finally gathered to pay for the rest. Which invites an interesting question. If you had the amount sooner, why would you wait? How big is the amount? Picture your savings as an orchard. Money that is invested in the plain, boring, hundreds of companies at once way grows like trees, slowly, then noticeably, then all by itself. Live off the fruit, and you never have to cut down a tree. In 1994, an American advisor named William Bengen worked out the safe harvest. A retiree who draws about 4% of their starting orchard each year, rising with inflation, would, through every crash and boom of the last century, almost never have run out of money over a 30-year retirement. 3 professors in Texas checked and got the same answer. It is called the 4% rule, and flipped over it becomes the beer mat sum. The orchard you need is your yearly spending, times 25. Spending, not salary. A person content on £20,000 a year needs around $500,000. The frugal don't just save faster. Their finish line walks toward them. And how fast can an orchard grow? Faster than intuition says, because the engine is not your salary. It is the gap between what you earn and what you spend. And the gap does double work. Every pound of it is a tree planted, and a pound your future self no longer needs each year. The arithmetic is startling. Save 10% of your pay, and each year of work buys about 5 weeks of future freedom. The project takes roughly 50 years. Save 25%, and a year buys 4 months. At 50%, 1 year of work buys 1 full year of freedom. And the entire project, from nothing to never again, takes about 17 years. That is the engine our man in Sheffield used. A large tech salary, a savage 60% saving rate, a lodger, no children, and 10 years of monkish deliberateness. At which point, honesty. The middle full-time salary in Britain is around £38,000. After the rent or the mortgage, after childcare, after the bills of a perfectly ordinary life, a 50% saving rate is not a discipline problem. It is a maths problem. And for most households, the maths does not solve. Extreme early retirement is mostly a sport for high earners, double incomes, and the child free. And one more ingredient turns up in these stories rather more often than the videos mention: a well-timed inheritance. A deposit-sized gift in your 20s quietly deletes about a decade from the sum, none of which makes the arithmetic false. It makes it honest. Fire at full strength is not on sale at every income. What is on sale to almost anyone with a payslip is the diluted version. And the diluted version is well worth having. Because here is what the movement's American founders never had: the British workplace pension. 3 of its features matter enormously. First, the match. Your employer must, by law, add money of its own when you contribute, and many will add more if you ask. Declining it is turning down free money. Second, tax relief. Money paid into a pension skips income tax on the way in. So a pound planted costs you around 80 pence, sometimes less. Third, the gates. A workplace or private pension unlocks at 57 for today's workers. The state pension around £12,500 a year at the full rate, joins in at 67 or 68. An ISA, an individual savings account, a wrapper in which investments grow completely untaxed, can bridge any years before the first gate. In other words, the machinery of an early retirement already sits inside most British payslips. But notice its factory setting. The standard auto-enrollment contribution, 8% of a slice of your pay, is calibrated to produce a pension at 68. Nobody mentions this. The dial, however, turns. There is a second reason to turn it yourself, and younger workers have already spotted it. The state pension is not a pot of money with your name on it. It is a relay. Today's workers pay for today's pensioners, trusting that tomorrow's workers will do the same for them. And the relay is under strain. Behind every British pensioner today stand around 3 people of working age. On current trends, it heads toward 2. The government's polite response has been to keep moving the finish line. 65, 66, 67, 68. And every move lands hardest on whoever is youngest when it happens. Will the whole thing collapse, like the pyramid scheme its critics call it? Probably not. No government would survive letting it. But the terms will almost certainly keep getting meaner. And this is the part that matters. The terms are not yours to set, which is the quiet case, even for people with no dream of retiring early, for growing an orchard of your own. Let the state pension be a pleasant top-up. Never let it be the plan. So meet Priya, 30 years old, £35,000 a year. A small terrace in Leeds with a mortgage that ends in her 50s. On factory settings, she coasts to 68. Instead, she turns the dial. Between her own contributions, her employer's match, and the tax relief, about £7,000 a year goes into her orchard, which costs her roughly £95 a week out of take-home pay. At ordinary long-run returns after inflation, call it 5%, that grows to around £400,000 in today's money by the time she is 58. The mortgage is gone by then. She lives comfortably on about £19,000 a year. For 10 years, the orchard carries her alone. At 68, the state pension arrives, and her drawings fall by 2/3. The sums, which Arthur checked twice because the comments section will hold. Priya retires 9 years early. 9 years. Roughly 470 Tuesday mornings, bought for £95 a week, and 3 decades of patience. Why fight so hard for those particular 9 years? Because of a number the retirement debate prefers not to say out loud. Healthy life expectancy in Britain, the years lived in good health, averages around 62. In poorer towns, it falls short of 60. The default plan, remember, asks for work until 68. For a very large number of people, the years between 58 and 68 are not bonus years at the end of something. They are, statistically, the best years left. The movement has its cautionary tales too. Some of its pioneers sprinted for a decade, reached the orchard, sat down in it, and found the silence deafening. Work had been quietly carrying their purpose, their people, and their pride, and the spreadsheet had no line for any of them. The veterans now repeat one lesson above all: retire towards something, not merely away from something. And notice what the money actually is. An orchard is stored freedom, and freedom pays out long before any retirement. The ability to refuse a bad job, a bad boss, a bad arrangement, years before you wave goodbye to work itself. Plenty of people who reach their number keep working, gentler, part-time, or finally at the thing they always meant to do. The point was never idleness. The point was choosing. The honest small print, then. Ordinary long-run returns are history, not a promise. Some decades contain frosts, which is why the very cautious harvest at 3.5% rather than 4%. Frugality has a failure mode too, a life so pruned it is no longer worth funding. The odd small joy is not a leak in the plan. It is the point of it, and life edits every spreadsheet. Children, illness, redundancy, love. A bent plan still beats no plan. Half an orchard is still shade. So here is the version to actually do. 5 moves, about an hour, no lentils anywhere. Take every pound of employer match on offer. It is the highest guaranteed return in Britain. Work out your number, the yearly spending that makes you content, times 25. Pick your own age, 58, 62, whatever fits your life, and point the machinery at it. Even a few % more saved drags the date years closer. Automate the whole thing on payday, so that discipline is never consulted. And from now on, measure your progress in years of freedom bought, not pounds. It is the only exchange rate that ever mattered. On the edge of town, Arthur walked out to a real orchard. Bare, black-branched, apparently doing nothing at all. He sat under the oldest tree for a while. Nothing about the place appeared to be working. All of it was. That, he thought, is rather the trick. The best kind of doing nothing is always arranged years in advance. His scarf lifted once in the wind, an item with its schedule entirely solved, retiring every spring, returning every November, never once caught out by a frost. The arithmetic, in the end, is real. The lentils are optional, and the number was never really the point. The point is the morning, whichever one you choose, when the alarm clock becomes a suggestion.